Our first presenter is Hannah Costin. She is our Senior Personnel Specialist for the HR division, and she will be sharing with all of us the application process, as well as some HR recommendations that she has for all of us. So let's go ahead and put the PowerPoint, and Hannah, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Just waiting for the PowerPoint to get started, but like you said, my name is Hannah. I work in the HR division of the Seattle Fire Department, and my primary role is I manage the entry-level firefighter hiring process. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Um, Next slide, please. So just a quick overview. The Seattle Fire Department is a nationally recognized leader in fire and emergency services, and it's also the largest fire department in Washington State. It has an average response of I have old data here. It used to be 90,000 incidents, but I believe it's over 100,000 incidents per year. And to keep our operations division staffed and continue to provide service to the Seattle community, we onboard 2 recruit classes of about 30 new recruits each year. Usually we hire recruit classes in February and in August. Our hiring process is highly competitive, and because of the public safety standards we have to adhere to and the number of applicants that are involved, at times it can be very complex. So the intent of my presentation today is to make you a bit more familiar with the process and answer any additional questions that you might have. Next slide. Okay, and just a quick overview of some of the benefits of working for the department. Our schedule is really great for people, especially people who do not live in the Seattle area. They work 8 24-hour shifts a month with either 2 days or 4 days off between shifts. We have several advancement opportunities, promotional opportunities, obviously, but firefighters can also apply for specialty and technical teams such as hazmat, tech rescue, paramedic, our marine unit, or arson investigations. Our starting salary, recruits start at $7,900 a month with regular step progressions and annual wage increases negotiated by the union. And then overtime opportunities and premium pay for various roles is also available. Medical and retirement. Seattle firefighters receive a left to pension, family, medical, and dental insurance, vacation, comp time, and sick leave, and they can take advantage of our deferred compensation plan, 4 weeks of paid parental leave, tuition reimbursement, paid military leave, and employee assistance services. One thing that's special about our department is we have a really robust peer support system to support members' well-being.
Looks like Hannah had a connection issue.
Sorry about that. My computer crashed really quickly there. Okay, so I'm done with benefits. I can move on to the next question or next slide. Okay, so in order to be hired as a Seattle firefighter, candidates have to meet minimum qualifications of having a high school diploma or a GED, a valid driver's license, be able to communicate in English, be at least 18 years old, and have a Washington State EMT certification. And then obviously they need to meet or exceed the standards of the hiring process. Candidates may submit an application if they're not already EMT certified, but they do need to be certified in Washington in order to be considered for final hire. Because of the length of our hiring process, many candidates are able to complete an EMT course before their hire date. The department will periodically offer an in-house EMT course for conditionally offered candidates, though for those courses, spots are limited and participation is not guaranteed. We typically have one EMT class a year of about 20. And then candidates who are EMT certified in other states are able to gain reciprocity in Washington State by partnering with the department after their conditional offer. Okay, next slide. So this is some information that you'll need to keep in mind as we approach the application and testing period. there's a lot of work that candidates can be doing now to prepare before the application period opens. I'm going to address 3 that I think are critical: the oral board, fire medical experience, and physical preparation. The oral board is a highly formal and standardized interview process, and if you're not used to similar processes, it can be very challenging to be successful without practicing beforehand. So there's a lot of tips and sample questions available online, and I would encourage you to use them to become comfortable talking about yourself and why you want to be a firefighter and what would make you an excellent Seattle firefighter. You can even record yourself answering the questions and watch the recording back to make sure you're speaking clearly and professionally. And then several firefighters in the department or otherwise would be happy to give you advice or even coach you on how to best present yourself as a candidate. Fire service and experience in the medical field. Although our department does not require any formal fire service experience, candidates will be more competitive if they have a good understanding of the role and a familiarity with the job duties that they'll be expected to perform. So local departments may have a volunteer opportunity that can be a really great introduction to the day-to-day responsibilities of a firefighter. And candidates should be comfortable with providing medical care. So becoming certified in CPR and first aid is a great first step to take if you don't have any experience in the medical field. And then physical preparation, it's honestly never too early to begin preparing for the physical rigors of academy. In addition to conditioning and strength training, candidates can emulate the conditions of academy by exercising with weighted vests or practicing using tools like chainsaws, crowbars, hoses, and ladders. And then sleep and diet can also make a huge difference. There are mobile apps that we would encourage you to use, such as the Team Builder app, which will allow you to design a training routine tailored specifically for the fire service. So if you're thinking about applying in October, I would encourage you to start working on your physical conditioning and routine now. Okay, next slide. And just a bit about the type of experience that we're looking for candidates to bring to the hiring process. There's a lot of different experience and backgrounds that can work in your favor when you're preparing to join the fire service. And during the application and testing process, it's really important to recognize what skills and attributes you have that can be translated into a firefighter career. So candidates who have a background in serving in the military are often successful because they're comfortable with the structure of the paramilitary organization. They understand the chain of command, and they're used to following orders in challenging situations and working as a team unit. And then former athletes often have similar experiences, and then they've also built the stamina and discipline that they'll need to be physically successful in Recruit Academy. Experience in construction and skilled trade industries can be incredibly valuable, especially if it involves tools or heavy machinery. Seattle firefighters use power tools, axes, protective equipment, and more in their day-to-day tasks. So already being skilled in those areas can make a huge difference. And having an understanding of construction and the way a house is built can also make a huge difference when you are responding to structural fires. And then no matter what your background is, being able to work successfully in a diverse environment is really important to being a Seattle firefighter. So during the hiring process, think about times when you've had to lead a group or de-escalate situations or communicate challenging messages or inspire a team. The strategies that you learned in those situations can help you in recruit school and in the fire station. And then the heart of the Seattle Fire Department's mission is to serve the community. It's really important for Seattle firefighters to have an understanding of the city of Seattle, its population, challenges, and strengths. And then any customer service role where you've provided compassionate service to an underserved population is a really great example to draw from when you are going through the hiring process. So those are just a few examples. When you're determining what to lean on, the most important thing is to understand the department's values and how they are reflected in your own experiences. Okay, next slide. So just an overview of the application period and testing process. After submitting an application during the open application period, candidates will receive instructions on how to complete the fire team test and the public safety suitability assessment through the National Testing Network. These are tests that can be completed remotely, so at your computer during a proctored event, or if you want, you can go to an NTN location and take it there. If a candidate passes all portions of the test, they'll be invited to participate in the oral board interview. This is that formal interview process that I talked about earlier. The results of the tests and the interview are combined with any veteran scoring criteria that are applicable. And then that score is used to rank candidates on a firefighter register. Registers are usually used to hire recruit classes. Well, we just moved to an annual process, so it's used to hire recruit classes for 1 year. And then once the register has expired, a new application will begin. So anyone who's interested in employment with the Seattle Fire Department over the next 1 to 2 years should apply during the upcoming open application period, as there won't be another opportunity to do so until 2026. Okay, next slide. Okay, a bit of detail on the hiring timeline once the register is established. The hiring timeline, because of the number of applicants involved and the number of steps, can take several months. Or does take several months. At the beginning of the process, the top 25% of the register is invited to complete preconditional assessments. The results of the assessments are used to determine who will be invited to participate in an interview and then be considered for a conditional offer. Candidates who are selected will need to complete several post-conditional assessments before receiving a final offer and being placed in a recruit class. Once a class is hired, we'll refresh the list, oftentimes adding names from the existing register, depending on how many candidates were hired, and then begin the preconditional assessment process again. So processes generally take 6 months from start to finish, sometimes longer if we need to also have an EMT course. And then 2 classes are hired off of each firefighter register. So that means that once the next application period opens, it will close and the register will be established in March of 2026. And the first class hired off of that register will start in August of 2026. And then we'll also hire a class in February of 2027. Okay, next slide. So a bit more information on the screening that candidates go through during the hiring process. First step is to complete an employment packet that includes their job history, certifications, their resume, and any additional materials they want to include. And then the candidates will be invited to complete a suitability assessment and a candidate physical ability test. A suitability assessment is made up of a series of questionnaires to evaluate a candidate's personal history, personality style, and emotional stability. This is another test that is remote, so it can be completed at your computer. And then the CPAT is an in-person assessment. It consists of 8 critical physical tasks, which simulate actual firefighter job duties and help determine if the candidates meet the standards of physical fitness required to perform in the fire service. After these assessments, candidates will be selected to complete an in-person interview with a panel with a fire chief and an assistant chief. I think I saw a question in the chat. I'll answer it later about how many people are invited. Typically, I try to schedule 100 to 150 candidates to interview at this point, depending on the size of the class that we're trying to hire. This interview will determine whether or not a candidate receives a conditional offer for the next class. And then along with our conditionally offered recruit candidates, we'll often also select several alternates who will be offered a position if one of the recruit candidates withdraws from the process. After the conditional offers, candidates will complete a medical assessment, a psychological assessment, and a background check before receiving a final offer. They'll attend a gear fitting at our warehouse and work with our EMS coordinator to make sure their EMS certifications meet Washington state requirements. Okay, next slide. Recruit training. I'm going to let my fellow operations members tell you more about the experience of recruit training, but essentially once hired, candidates must successfully complete our in-house paid recruit training program. In addition to classroom instruction, the program includes practical training in firefighting techniques and equipment use. Our 15-and-a-half-week program is known to be hands-on and drill intensive. Recruits are evaluated daily and must successfully complete all elements of the training in order to graduate. After recruit school, recruits are assigned to an operations division company to complete their probationary year. And then once they've completed the rest of their probationary year, they receive a Firefighter 2 certification and permanent appointment as a firefighter. Next slide. Okay, and again, I will let our guests speak a bit more about what it's like to be a CL firefighter. But one of the main responsibilities of a CL firefighter is to provide emergency medical services to the public. About 80% of the calls we receive are medical in nature. So all firefighters are certified to provide basic life support. And then our Medic One program is staffed with certified paramedics to provide advanced life support. We have an active fire prevention program, including regular building inspections by firefighters within each of the fire station districts. Then, of course, in the case of a fire emergency, firefighters identify the source of the fire, use fire suppression techniques, and search and rescue victims. So the conditions of this type of response can include extreme heat, smoke, and working in confined spaces, all while carrying 100 pounds of equipment. And then operations members will often respond to hazardous materials incidents and disasters when they occur. And then if time allows, members will provide community services such as blood pressure screening, fire station tours, and community outreach. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as we've stated, the application period for the next register is going to open on October 7th, and it will be open until November 25th. Oral boards are scheduled to take place in January and February of 2026, and I would anticipate the register will be published in March. And then, as I said before, the first class hired off of the new register will start in August of 2026, and we anticipate hiring 2 classes from this register. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I understand I just threw a lot of information at you, so the process can seem a little bit complicated, but the HR division is obviously always available to answer any questions you might have. First step is to visit clfireJobs.com, where you can sign up to receive a notice of when the next application period begins, any other updates on our hiring process. And then our website has a lot of information on the process and training materials for candidates. And then questions about the hiring process can be sent to sfd.recruitment@seattle.gov. And if you prefer to speak to someone, you can call our headquarters during business hours to be connected with a member of the team. So that phone number is there as well. That's all from me. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. Always comprehensive, always insightful. Keep that email address intact. Take a screenshot of it. In addition, we're going to drop this PowerPoint in the chat so you can download it to your phone or to your laptop. And again, this whole session is being recorded, so you can open up the PowerPoint and review this later on as well. Thanks again, Hannah. Let's get to part 2 of our session together. This I call Firefighters Blueprint for Success. And our first presenter is Firefighter Joshua Woods. And he will be sharing with us his experience before the fire service, before joining the SFD, tips and pointers on the interview process, recruit school, advice or 2 in general that he has for all of you guys. So Firefighter Woods, take it away.
So hello, everyone. Hannah explained everything perfectly. And, we'll touch it a little bit more into the process and, the what we call the grind as far as the academy goes. But before me coming to SFD, as you can all see, I'm born and raised in Ohio. I lived in Arizona 13 years before moving up here for the job. I did numerous things when I was younger, competed in bodybuilding competitions. I played high school and college sports. I played basketball, but mainly football. I didn't know really anything about the fire service, so it was all new to me. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, I didn't really see a lot of firefighters. I saw more cops in my neighborhood than firefighters. So I never really thought that was something I could actually obtain. One of my boys. Like when I was in Arizona, he was a firefighter, really put me on, allowed me to do what we call ride-alongs, and I fell in love with the profession. Um, fast forward 2 years, I applied for Seattle, and it was great. I got hired. I'm on ladder 11. I work C shift. I'm a tiller in West Seattle, and I love it. I've been in the department almost 6.5 years. Um, as far as John was saying, in the beginning, when it comes to like the interview process, as I said before, it's not like every other job. It's not like working at an interview for like Starbucks or Foot Locker or anything in particular. And no disrespect to those professions, but it's different. You really have to submerge yourself in the culture, and that's what I had to do. Like understanding, like not only the type of questions, but how to answer the questions, and really to put your best foot forward. I've been on numerous interview panels, and what I've learned is that a lot of people just don't really know how to tell their story, which is unfortunate because everybody has a story to tell, regardless of how cookie cut your life may seem. You have something to bring to the table. It's just knowing the proper way to, tell everyone, right? And oddly enough, the entire interview is almost about boasting yourself, right? Telling about your experiences and how it applies to the fire department and the profession in general. Um, I would say what I did, what really helped me a lot was, you know, doing mock interviews in front of a mirror, in front of my wife, with friends and family, and also recording them because you find yourself doing those filler words like and like, and once you actually record yourself and you hear yourself doing those things, it's pretty shocking, right? And you find yourself, it makes it a lot easier to take those things up. As far as my time within the department, or I should say, as far as my advice for the academy, I should say, it's yeah, it's some long days and short nights. You've definitely got to have that conversation with your spouse, your friends, your family, and let them know you're not going to be available for that period of time. It's 15 and a half weeks of just a grind. And we may have Saturday sessions and they say they're voluntary. You always need to work. I feel like one of the biggest things, one of the biggest traits to make you a successful firefighter, and I guess not even just firefighter, but just person in life, is fighting complacency. I'm a strong believer in, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So you've got to always put that effort in to always better yourself and never feel like you're just good or you're great or you can never learn more, right? One of my football coaches told me years ago is that you don't practice to have a better chance of getting everything right. You practice to have a lesser chance of getting things wrong. So that's one of those things that I live and die by. And even with my recruit class, we came up with a saying of always on probation, because that first year you're busting your butt. You're the first one in, the last one to leave, and your reputation outlasts you and your time in the department. So it goes a long way. Um, as far as some of the takeaways, I would say, like I said on here, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and focusing on that next step, not the very end of the task, but what's next. And once you're breaking down those blocks and those objectives and those barriers, it makes things a lot easier. And focusing more on why you're doing a task versus what you're doing. It's something as simple as tying your shoes. Anybody can just tie their shoes, right? But understanding like, oh, okay, if I don't tie this properly, my laces can come untied, someone can step on them, I could step on them, and things can turn for the worse. So, oh, I should probably tighten them a little bit tighter than normal, right? It sounds silly, but when you really focus on why you're doing something versus what you're doing, you're allowed to do that with more conviction. And I've learned that you do that task a lot better. Above and all, I should say above and yeah, I should say at the end of the day, lean on your peers. Everybody's going through the same thing you're going through. So using those resources, it goes a long way. Everybody strengthens each other's weaknesses, and you'll learn that throughout, just throughout life, not alone within the academy. So leaning on your peers, finding out what they're good at, what you're good at, and iron sharpens iron. So yeah, is that 10 minutes yet? Because I know I'm starting to ramble a little bit.
No, that was amazing. Thank you, Firefighter Woods, for your words of insight. I like the part about the why of the task. That resonates for me. And in doing so, fighting complacency. You just spoke to all of us, so we appreciate you. Next up, next
Appreciate it.
presenter, we have firefighter Ken Tran, and he will be sharing with us his pathway before joining the SFD. Any tips and pointers for interview, recruit school, and advice or two that he may have for all of you guys. So, firefighter Tran, take it away.
Thanks, John. Yep, my name's Ken Tran. Current assignment is Engine 10 A shift. Before joining the Seattle Fire Department, I came from a smaller fire department called Granite Falls, north of Monroe. I was part-time there for just short of a year as a firefighter EMT, and I got to get that fire and medical experience that Hannah was talking about earlier to make yourself a stronger candidate. Prior to that, I was a social worker for the Bellevue Fire Department. Essentially, what Seattle does with their Health One program, Bellevue Fire calls that the CARES program, and I was a social worker there for about a year as well. And that was also one of the primary pivotal experiences that made me transition from full-time social worker to a full-time firefighter. And prior to that, I was in my MSW program at UW. I got my MSW in 2022. Prior to that, I attended the Everett Community College Fire Academy in 2021. And then previous jobs before that, I was a barista for a bubble tea shop. I drove DoorDash. I delivered newspapers. And then before that, I was involved in the arts with cinematography, sound design, and photography. So that was kind of what I did before becoming a Seattle firefighter. And then the next slide, I've put in my assignment path. So I came in, I got hired. My first day was 2/1/23. I was part of recruit class 118. I did my 15 and a half weeks of drill school, got assigned to Engine 21 C shift and Ladder 9 C shift for my probation. And straight after probation, I got assigned to Ladder 1 on paper, but really I put in for the 8-5 rotation. And after completing half of my 8-5 rotation, I got onto the hazmat team. And that was Engine 10 B shift was where I did my 16 training shifts. And then I put in for Engine 10 A shift. So I guess Firefighter Woods did a very good job of kind of recapping the recruit school process and the interviews. So I don't want to repeat anything. So I'll try to offer some different things. One of the things for the interview process that I did was I hired an interview coach. So when I was part-time at Granite Falls, I kid you not, I was probably 0 for 20 on my first speed interviews. And like Firefighter Wood said, we all have a story. I guarantee you, if I ask every single one of you, hey, tell me something about yourself, you have something interesting. And it's finding a story that is going to resonate with the person in front of you during that panel and trying to share that so that they remember you and you feel good telling yourself about that. And so I had no idea how to do that. And so I hired an interview coach. I went to 111fireprep.com and I hired Lieutenant Ron Herrera from Tacoma Fire Department. That's his side business. That's his project. He's a lieutenant for Tacoma Fire. He's been at Tacoma for about 14 years. So some of the information that he gives about interviews is a little dated, but nonetheless, it was still very good advice and very direct feedback. It was probably one of the most honest and direct feedbacks that I ever got from anything I've ever done. And he submitted weekly videos of myself answering questions. I'd send them in, and he'd send videos back of saying, "Hey, you should do this better," or I noticed that you do this. Maybe you should do that. Maybe you should try this." And slowly but surely, I was able to get past that speed interview and progress to panel interviews, and including Seattle's. And I was very lucky enough to get hired by Seattle. for Recruit Class 118. So that was one thing that I did for interview prep. And the other piece of advice I would say is after every single interview that you go to, regardless of whether it's Seattle or not, you should create a document. So I probably had, I think it was a 20-page document, a Word document of all the questions that I was asked for that interview. And immediately, as soon as I got done with that interview, I'd go back in my car, pull up my phone, and type the questions out and type kind of the answer or story that I decided to talk about. And then whether I moved on or didn't move on. And I kind of had this massive Rolodex of questions and answers that I had that I didn't necessarily copy and paste for every single interview, but I used every single interview as a learning experience. And slowly and surely I got better. In terms of the drill school, looking back at it, I think it was a bigger mental challenge than a physical challenge. I think that if you put the time and effort beforehand to get yourself in shape to a degree, you will succeed. It's then that mental pressure, the added pressure of instructors yelling at you. Nothing you do to a certain degree is never good enough, and always trying to find different ways to get faster at meeting your weekly time standards or just passing a drill and not making the same mistakes over and over and over. So I think it's a bigger mental pressure than a physical pressure. And looking back at it, if I could do one thing differently in drill school, I would try to just focus on the task at hand rather than worrying about what the instructors are thinking or what the chief of training is thinking. If I'm told to do something, I just do that one thing and nothing else. That's the one thing that I would have done differently. Then I wouldn't have psyched myself out in many evolutions. For my current involvement in the department, I'm involved in fire prep and recruit prep. So those are the new hire programs that we offer to prospective candidates going into the drill school. Those take place on Saturdays, and I highly recommend that you do attend those. I've attended both of those prospectively when I was applying, and it was a huge help because you get to play around with the equipment and do the drills that they're going to ask you to do in drill school without the added pressure of an instructor yelling at you. And it's a voluntary program. So I recommend that you do that. Obviously, recruitment and outreach. I love talking to new folks, trying to give just any piece of advice that I think might resonate with a few people. I'm also involved with IFSAC testing, and currently on the hazmat team at TENS. So all the big events we offer venue protection. So I am involved in that, and then I'm also involved with certain operations training in the media side. So I have a photography and a videography background. So whenever they need a video made for any assignment, I'll usually volunteer for that and get involved in that. So yeah, current final advice. I think the next slide is good. I got a minute left, but test aggressively, hire an interview coach. Don't forget your cardio. Prepare your friends and family for what's about to come. You're going to be very tired during drill school. So be sure that whatever support system you have at home, they're aware that when you come home, you're going to be pretty empty. And there's no substitution for repetition. So I recommend attending those Saturday programs. And once you pass drill school and get to probation, just try to run as many calls as you can, work overtime, and try to get as many reps as you can while you're new. And I'll end on the note that firefighters come from all walks of life. Your other skills will be useful, and you will be an asset to the community that you serve or the station that you're assigned to. So each station has got its own culture. Each station has their own patch, and the communities that they serve are vastly different. So find your niche and find where you fit in. And that's all for me.
All right. Thank you, Firefighter Tran. I appreciate the tactical approach that you took for yourself and you're handing this advice to folks here. And the part about no substitution for repetition, I think resonates with all of us. So thank you so much for your presentation. And the last presenter, we have firefighter Katie Campbell, and she will be sharing with us her background before joining the SFD, tips and pointers on the interview and recruit school, and just general advice or two that she may have for all of you guys. So firefighter Campbell, take it away.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. It's really nice to see everyone. I thought it was really sweet to have that interaction with the chat at the beginning. So I'm not used to this like virtual setting, so I'll do my best to try to offer my experience, things that I learned early in my career and I'm still learning. I have been with Seattle for almost 8 years, and I'll just kind of share my history about where I started. I grew up in Washington, Spokane area. I don't have any ties to the fire service. In my family, I was the first to go to college and graduate in my family. So grew up in a small town with kind of a small world things, and yeah, I was an athlete growing up, so sports kind of took me to school. I ran cross country and track and played basketball. Um, and those were really just foundational pillars for giving me some tools that were essential to be successful in some of the endeavors that I had. Through college in the summertime, I worked as a wildland firefighter. So I started my kind of wildland experience in college, where I was on just a 20-man hand crew with some folks in the DNR, and then I graduated with a degree in secondary education, health and fitness focus, and thought I wanted and really loved the idea of teaching. I enjoy a teaching setting and students, but was kind of bored. So I wanted to continue my wildland, experience, and I wanted to be a smoke jumper. So I did that and smoke jumped for just under 5 years, basically, for smoke jumping, and I did that in Redmond, Oregon. And I would say that um, through the experiences you've heard about, physical and mental draws that you're gonna experience through any fire academy, um, I would agree with Firefighter Tran that the mental portion of my experience was more challenging with Seattle than it was physical, just based on some of my experiences. Like my smoke jumping experience was pretty challenging to start out with. And then to get ready for my smoke jumping experience, I really needed to grow. So I started going to CrossFit back in the early 2000s, like 2007. And that just gave me a lot of skills, body awareness, and I think that that's super important. So yeah, I loved being an athlete in CrossFit, like after college, and then loved the teaching. So I started coaching in about 2013 and have been coaching since. And those skills and just, yeah, knowing my body and what works well and what doesn't work well really served me as I moved into the structure world. So yeah, I think that's that slide. We'll go to the next. So my experience and time with Seattle, as far as I think the guys shared some of those recruit experiences and how to prepare more, and um, I think that what I'm hoping to offer in this conversation with you is ways that you can know yourself better. So, like these guys said, there's spaces for everyone here, and finding your people. And we kind of talk about the fire service as a family, and I think it's a challenge for me, honestly, that term family, because there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of layers there. But when basically when it comes like when the rubber meets the road, that is actually how it feels when we're all needing each other, supporting each other in these really vulnerable settings. That's when it shows up the most. I've spent my time with Seattle working at busier houses because I didn't have any EMS experience. I too decided to do an aid 5 rotation, and an aid 5 rotation is a busy aid car downtown Pioneer Square at Station 10. That is a rotational aid car for mostly newer folks that do a 3-month rotation, and you just go and ride the aid car. So I started after my probation where I worked in the south end of the city, which is where I prefer to work. More diverse, access to a lot of things, tends to be a bit more active in a lot of ways. And so had great time in probation, great opportunities, like at the houses I was stationed at. Went to aid 5, and then I decided I wanted to go to Station 25, which is on Capitol Hill. Love the district, love the people on the hill, and the variety of learning is amazing because you have single family homes to high rise to freeway response. Like there's just a lot of great ways to be exposed to all the avenues that feels essential to be exposed to be good or better at the things that you're trying to do well. 25s happens to be a specialty unit. It's the energy response team. So it's one of those like the hazmat. They are we do all of our same firefighting jobs. We have just an additional skill on top of that. So I was on the hill and worked on the engine for a few years, and then I moved to the truck and loved the truck life and had opportunities to, maybe get a driver's spot early, but I felt very young and wanted more experience, and I could find myself sitting in a seat for a long time, maybe not being as stretched as I like to, just based on my skill. So I decided to apply to our rescue company. Seattle has one rescue company. Our rescue company, it kind of emulates New York style rescue. Seattle is the closest to New York City rescue in all of the Pacific Northwest. No one else has the rescue that we do in the ways that we do outside of like New York and San Francisco. So it's a really unique, special place to work. I'm the first woman to work at the rescue in 12 years. And, for women, non-binary folks in the room, these spaces you'll be working with men, majority, and maybe you have another woman passing, in the morning from shift to shift. Maybe there's a few at the station. It's rare. So just know that this is a male dominant space. I think that I've worked with men my whole life in jobs that are really hard, but it's just something to know if you haven't thought about that. As far as the things that I put my energy into for Seattle is, it was Hannah mentioned, we have a peer support. So I'm a shift lead for our peer support crisis intervention team. And my heart is drawn to sharpening ways I can support myself and how I can support the people I care about most. Sorry, the lights just turned off. See if I can turn them on. I'm back. Yeah, so I do a lot of work with suicide prevention and trying to identify and support the people that I work with and care about on a daily basis. We have great trainings and just opportunities to really ask each other hard questions when maybe we're going through some hard stuff. So love that work. I'm also a truck instructor for our for SFD. So I just based on my rescue experience and or working at the rescue and having truck experience prior, and there's not a lot of women. It's nice to have the platform to be able to teach and to bolster my skills and see the way others move and do things, and it's really great. I'm also a part of our Race and Social Justice Committee for Seattle, finding ways to bring equity and inclusion to the department, and again, the way that we move through the world as this firefighter culture. And part of our awards committee, so someone who values recognizing people when they're doing things that should be recognized. So it's a cool thing. I also support with our strength and conditioning, and we're really bolstering that program. Also, we have a new body in a position that's really, taking more initiative to support current firefighters and these fire pep programs. So there's a lot of smart people doing, giving their time to try to give y'all the skills to be successful. One thing that Seattle really has taken on is this thing called MPEAK. It's a mindfulness performance enhancement awareness class put on by the University of San Diego. And it's basically a mindfulness class. And it all focuses basically on building resiliency and accessing flow more easily. So these are tools that you're going to need. And I wish that I would have had or been able to identify that I had some of those skills, tap into those things. And now I'm able to identify what's going on in my body so that I can actually sit with these things to be able to respond instead of reacting. So when you're in a situation, in recruit school, or you've made it, and you're in another situation, you know yourself well enough to know what's going on so you can make these decisions that you're deciding, not just like the way that you've always done them. So I would encourage you to look that up, and try to sit with yourself and learn more about yourself. So yeah, I think that's that slide. Maybe one more. Yeah, this is one of the pictures of me jumping. I miss it. It was an exciting time, but I think that this view or frame is that sometimes when you start, my offering when we leave here is that personal development is probably what I would say. There was a question like, what's the one, would you say, John, like, what do you think an attribute that you need to have? All of those are really great, but a lot of those, and in addition, if we don't know how we're going to actually lean into these things about, like you said, bravery or, communication, like we don't know how we're actually communicating. We don't know what it is, what are the ingredients that make me feel brave, then how can we actually do those things? I think that it's easy to say those things, but in practice, like we don't really know ourselves, or a lot of us don't really know ourselves like that well, because we're not sitting with ourselves and spending time. Just like we should be going to the gym and you should be starting your shoulds, like, yes, you need to be fit to do this job. I find this job to be challenging kind of every day, personally, especially working on the rescue. There's a lot. I'm short. I'm 5'4". I weigh 135 pounds, and everything I move are 6'2" men that are 200 plus. Like, it's just not easy. So I would just ask you to find spaces that ask you to sit with yourself, and so you can learn. It's going to help you answer those interview questions in an authentic, like, grounded way. And those versions are the things that people across the room, like myself and these other folks in the room, are able to be like, oh, this person's like, there's more there than just the answer, if that makes sense. So spend some time figuring out what, like, personal development means to you. Where do you feel like you could actually stretch and learn more about yourself? This idea of resiliency building is, some of you may or may not know there's this it's called the confidence course. Basically, you put your, it's the first time, and for me, it was the first time I put a face piece on and I have, the mask on, which is the backpack and the air thing, and they take you through a confined space. Seattle has a really cool confined space prop. And because Seattle is larger and has more resources, I've been to other ones. Ours is great. It's more, not scary, but it was intense. That first time for me was intense. And you don't have to have access to our prop to feel the things that I felt in there, which was these discomfort, like my heart rate's starting to go up. I'm noticing these things. And when you start to have an elevated heart rate and you aren't currently thinking about what you're doing, you're just, you're experiencing fear, you're experiencing like all those things that are coming up for you. Most people, or a lot of people, don't perform really well. It's called performance anxiety. You're gonna probably, and maybe you already know that about yourself, that performance anxiety is a real thing. And those are the contributing factors that put you in a scenario that you don't perform well because you are elevated. And just do hard things, meaning like go find a CrossFit gym, learn music, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be physical. Find something that is stretching you. That's hard. That's what I'm gonna offer. It can be physical, but I think that both is really great. So do something that feels hard for you. Maybe it's a conversation. I don't know who you are, but like find something and keep doing the thing that's hard because it's gonna help you in Seattle, because it is just a little just like it's hard in a variety of ways. You're away from your family, all those things. And then community and network. I think that this is another thing with like, you're doing it right now. I applaud you for stretching yourself to be in a room. Maybe there's a way you guys can connect outside of this. I'm not sure, via emails and stuff like that, but keep networking, ask questions. Don't do this alone. It's not as fun. And then mental health. This job is hard mentally, physically, and you're exposed to things. Knowing yourself and having more self-care tools helps you with that mental health side. So I'm like, this personal development goes and coincides with your mental health, because it's a real thing. Firefighters are dying because they are killing themselves more than they are dying from anything else. Okay. Find a mentor in a variety of things, like whether it's for interview prep or working out, or just find somebody you can talk through stuff with. I think it's really important. And then I have another MP push, because I think it's the secret sauce to being very good at this job. And yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. Appreciate you listening, and good luck.
All right. Thank you, Firefighter Campbell. Gosh, not only are you talented, you are spread thin. You are sharing the wealth of knowledge to not only our department, but to the community. I'm just glad I'm not the one in the picture. It's you. So, but the picture is pretty exhilarating. Three things I want to mention before we close. If you wish to review this recording, it'll be posted on our YouTube channel later this week. So go ahead and do that. Watch it with your family, your loved ones, your support system. If you haven't downloaded the PowerPoint, we can go ahead and put that in the chat again so you guys can have access. Second, the application window, October 7th to November 25th. Get linked up with our email notification on seattlefirejobs.com. And then second, if you want to literally stay up to date, link up with us on our social media. You can get up-to-date information. Couple of events. August, we're going to have a Fire Connect in person at one of our fire stations. So to get that info, social media is prime. In October, Future Women in EMS, October 18 and 19. And then the King County Fire Chiefs Association's diversity recruitment event. That will be either the first, second, or the third week in November. So we got a lot going on. And then one more plug is we got podcasts season 2 coming up on YouTube. If you haven't caught on, make sure you watch season 1 a lot of amazing firefighters are on there. So thank you again. I hope this was helpful, and you guys take care.